Hello. Thank you for coming here. There's a crowd, really, audience. So let me introduce the guest of Golden Chickens, Márk László, once again, straight from Budapest, Hungary. Okay.
Hi everyone.
Yeah, so it's really straight from Budapest because there is a straight train from Budapest to Breslau,
yeah.
So it's quite convenient. You are a guest of this edition of Golden Chickens, and you are because you're a great artist, of course, but the main reason is a publication about the boy who fell in love with Ghost of a Clown. But I think the English original title is simpler, Ghost Clown.
Yeah, it's actually The Boy Who Loved the Ghost Clown, because I love whimsical long titles, but it's easier to say Ghost Clown. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the main reason. You can find this great book. It's really nice printed one on the stand with next to Márk stand, and I think you will let it do the autographs and so on. So after this meeting, Márk will be there waiting for you for your questions. So that's the main reason, and I wanted to ask you: are you a fan of ghost stories and clown stories and little boys?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, this idea actually came, the idea of the book came to me because I love sketching. I'm sketching whenever I can, and I drew a lot of ghosts, a lot of spooky stuff because that's what I like, and I just drew a ghost clown, and I drew a little boy next to it, and I felt like there's a story behind this image, so I started to work it out, and I did like, it took me like 3 years to write the story, because it was my first story that I ever wrote, and yeah, I mean, eventually it became a book.
So you can find everything, clowns, ghosts, and a little kid here. And I will be spoiling you because you shouldn't know too much before the reading of this book, as a first surprise is quite early in the story. So don't read about it, just buy it. Really, I recommend it. It's really great. And from what I know, it's just the beginning of that story, of that universe. So what's your plans for that characters and the world created here?
Yeah, so actually there's a narrator, which is also a character in the book, and because I like EC comics, old school horror comics, you know, each has also narrators and characters that tell the story. I came up with my own kind of homage to the EC comics, which is a ventriloquist who's dead, and the puppet is telling the story. So, which was the question?
What's your plan for that universe? So I suppose that this puppet will be telling different story in each issue.
Yeah, and each of them will be vaguely connected to each other, and in the end, when I finish the whole thing, it's gonna be like an anthology of short stories, each dealing with different kind of spooky horror stuff, and it's, in my head, it's all an homage to EC Comics and stuff.
You are saying about EC Comics, great publisher from the past, a lot of great classical stories, but even before you start to read that book, when you open it and look at the pages and the art, there is a striking resemblance, but not, you know, like copycat, but striking resemblance to what Mike Mignola in Hellboy did. So I suppose that the Hellboy is quite strong figure in your life.
Oh yeah, it's a huge influence. I mean, as you said, you can see it in my art that I'm probably a fan of Mike Mignola in this world, I discovered his stuff when I was like 14, and for the first time I didn't really fall in love with it, but I instantly understood that it's different from the mainstream comics a bit, because for me there's a huge love of art, of shapes, and the really great storytelling that I like. And you know, that sparked my imagination from the start, and I grew up reading Hellboy comics, so that marked.
And you started to not only reading comics with Hellboy, but also draw a lot of illustration with a Hellboy.
Oh yeah, I did lots of stuff of fan art because I love drawing Hellboy. So I think that's what in the end got me the gig to work with Márkiem László.
Yeah, because it's a starting point of this story. From doing homage illustrations to work with well, one of your masters, if I can say it like that. So Márkiem László, how that happened that he found you or you found him, and you've managed to do the book together?
Yeah, so there was a drawing competition for the anniversary of 25th birthday of the first Hellboy comic, and everybody from all around the world sending fan arts and fan arts of Hellboy, and I did do, and for some reason I got into the first top 3, and that meant that they're gonna show the drawing to Márkiem László himself. And yeah, after that I was brave enough to friend him on Facebook. And over the years, I think he saw on Facebook that I drew a lot of Hellboy, fan art, commission, stuff like that. And after I friended him on Facebook for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years, someday he just, I was walking on the street, like at home in Budapest, and I saw that I have a message on my phone, and I looked at my phone and it was Márkiem László. And you know, that's the most surreal thing that I can ever imagine. And he asked me for sample pages that I did before, comic pages, and said that he might have a story that I could draw. So I stood there and I cried for a bit. I called my mom, and it eventually became my first Hellboy story that I did.
Yeah, I have it with me on portable device and digital dark horse. It's a Hellboy and PPRD. Time is a river. It's that's that cover, yeah.
Yeah, this is actually the second.
And I recommend that book to you. It's a second from Hellboy by Mike. But I wanted to show it to you because it's a great story. One of my favorite in the last few years in the Mignolaverse.
Thank you.
That one thing, and another thing is that book takes place in Budapest.
Oh yeah.
And not only, but Budapest. It started in Budapest. So it was written by Mignola just for you. Budapest is because of you.
Yeah, I think he first wrote this story with the idea of Prague for a background. But when we started to talk about it, he knew that I was from Budapest, because I think he was in Budapest for the making of the first Hellboy movie, because they made the first Hellboy movie in Budapest. And I talked about that with him before, so he knew that I was also from Budapest, and he asked me if I wanted to take the story from Prague to Budapest, and I said, oh hell yeah, because then I wouldn't have to, you know, check
Google search.
Yeah, Google search, so I can just walk on the street, and you know, that's what I lived for all my life, so I can use streets as a real reference for the story.
Okay, so I have a question that I have to ask to you. It could be problematic and hard one, and I can imagine. But how it is to work together on a comic book with your master legend, you know, Márkiem László. how it is, how it was for you.
Surreal, very, very surreal. I mean, it's still hard to believe for me that this happened to me because, you know, as I said, I grew up reading stories and it was like, he's on the Mount Rushmore of Hellboy, of all-time comic artists for me. And yeah, sometimes I still just sit at home and wonder, like, have I dreamed all of this? Is this really happening? But now there's a printed comic, so I guess it's really happened. Yeah, it's the best thing that ever happened to me, and probably.
Okay, so what's the way that Mike is working with artists? What you can tell us about the process of working with Mike and bring the story to the final comic book?
I mean, we only talked in email and Facebook Messenger, but he's a really nice guy. I mean, he's super helpful. His script is very vague in terms of storytelling. He doesn't tell how should you show the pictures. It's all on me, and he breaks it down to panel by panel. But other than that, it's on the artist to figure it out, which was really nice for me. Yeah.
But it also applies a pressure on you. Did you feel pressure working with him?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for the whole time I thought that he's gonna say, "Oh, it's not good enough. Go back to draw for 5 more years," something like that. But it didn't happen. He was always super nice. For some examples, he made some choices on my drawings, which is totally fine. I couldn't draw. There's a step, a line of steps. No, I don't know, staircase. In the first story that I did, and he made me redraw that, and I think that was the only stuff that he fixed.
Okay, so you told me that before this official meeting that there is a funny thing with Mike, that he asked the artist, what do you want to do, what do you want to draw, and you have to give him some ideas, and then he makes a plot around that thing.
Yes.
What was in your case?
Yeah, before we started to do this, the second story, he didn't have any ideas to how to create a continuation of the first story, so he just asked me about stuff that I like to draw. So I gave him like 5 examples. I know I wanted to draw water, because there was a huge flood in Budapest in the 18th century. I also gave him like the idea of an old lady with a horse head.
Stop support for a minute, I will find her.
Yeah, she's also on the cover.
Yeah, she's on the cover, and this is that one scene with horse head lady.
Horse-headed lady. Yeah. So I gave him these examples just randomly, and in 1 hour, literally, sorry my pronunciation. Yeah, he wrote back a fully written script in 1 hour. So I realized that he probably has a formula in his head for his stories that he writes, and yeah, it was like done in 1 hour, and it was like, okay, go for it.
Okay, that's nice. So we are talking in Polish English and Hungarian English, so the pronunciation could be different than the original, but we'll try. Okay, so you've done 2 issues with Hellboy and Mike László. It's something more on the horizon?
I mean, I hope so. There wasn't an actual talk about it, but the second story came by because he just commented on one of my drawings on Facebook, and he was like, "Okay, why don't we do a second one?" And I was like, "Sure, why don't we do a second one?" So yeah, I hope so.
So the lesson from this story for us is that you really should do some fan art of your favorite drawings and friends them on Facebook, and it can be helpful sometimes.
Yeah.
Good. And can you tell me, apart the Hellboy, what's your background as a comic artist, comic lover, passionate about that way of telling stories. So what was your favorite comics book that paved the way to the moment you are here?
Yeah, so ever since I was born, I really knew that I wanna earn my living by drawing, because that's the only thing I really passionately love. And so I was drawing comics when I was in elementary school. So I kept on doing that, and I really never stopped. And as I went along, I discovered lots of artists, and some of them I felt that I resonated with, like Robert Crumb and Daniel Close and Charles Burns, all these kind of indie creators that sometimes do weirder stories or maybe horror stories. And yeah, these are my heroes. So yeah.
Okay, and any Hungarian artists from the old generations that were, you know, like mandatory lecture for comic readers in Hungary? Do you have such a names?
Yeah, there's a guy who just 1 year older than me, and we went together to a drawing school when we were in our teens. His name is Miklós Felvidéki. He's also working on US titles. But from the older generation, I read all of those comics, like by Attila Fazekas and Zora Dernu.
So the names we know in Poland from the old relax stories and albums that were published in the 80s in Poland.
But those were not sparking my imagination as these guys. I said, but I read all the comics that I could find in my childhood. So yeah, definitely all those guys.
Okay, so for the artist, what that adventure with Hellboy, Mike Mignola gave you? Did that spot a light on you, and do you get some new, very interesting proposition from other editors in the United States or all around the world?
Yeah, I can pretty much say that probably Mike Mignola saved my career and my ass.
And your income.
yeah, because ever since that, it gave me so much, you know, like spotlight and popularity that people get to know my stuff because of Hellboy, the popular character. So ever since that, I can choose between job offers. So it's really the best thing that I hoped for to get in maybe my 60s or my older years. It happened pretty early on, so I really hope that it's gonna stay like this.
So what's on your table right now? What stories or what co-authors?
I'm working on the continuation of this book. I also have several comic ideas that I want to work on. My dream is to not just draw comics, but also write them. And besides that, I'm doing commissions, and if a job comes along, I probably will take it. I mean, a comic job.
Okay. And what's the question that always I very often hear in Poland? Can you live from doing comics in contemporary Hungary, Budapest? What's the way for the young comic artist in your country? How does it like?
Yeah, before I get to do the Hellboy comic, I couldn't live just by doing comics. Ever since that, I can do it, but my main income is from commissions that are coming because of the comics. So the more comics I do, the more commission requests I get, and the two of them are enough to make a living. But if I would have to live in USA, for example, I don't think I can live from the same amount of income. So it really helps that I live in Eastern Europe where things are cheaper. Yeah, if I would live in the US, I think I would have to draw like 24/7 all the time. Even that wouldn't be probably enough. So yeah, helps that I live in Eastern Europe.
So how the landscape of contemporary Hungarian scene look like? Do you have a lot of new artists, publishers, festivals, or it's very different from what we know in Poland?
It's quite similar. It's smaller, I think. Ever since the superhero movies and Marvel movies and stuff like that came around, it's getting more and more popular. So 10 years ago, it was all about manga and mainstream superhero comics. Now it's getting more indie, more underground stuff are getting published, which I think is really good, and it's just the start of a great process, I think, because, for example, my favorite comic, like one of my favorite comics is Black Hole by Charles Burns, and in my childhood it was unimaginable, okay, you know the word, unimaginable to think that such stuff will get published in Hungary, and now it is published in Hungary. So I think it's gonna be like this here in 10 or 5 years, hopefully. Yeah.
Okay, and we are on the Golden Chicken Festival. It's a celebration of self-publishing and zines. So how that scene look in Hungary? There is a lot of self-publishing authors, comics authors, and zines, magazines.
Yeah, I actually did that for several years in my teens, doing DIY comics and zines and stuff. And there's lots of other people doing that. And now we have zine workshops. Yeah, also in a university where I was went, Mohorina School of Arts, where I studied animation. Even they're starting a comic course. Yeah, so it's getting popular and better. But it just started. This whole process started in the last 5 years. It's a fresh thing.
Okay. And what those new authors in Hungary? What kind of comics they are doing? The artistic stuff, very outer thing, or maybe they are trying to break up with some Hungarian superheroes or other genre stories. So, what are you thinking about this?
It's very diverse. I mean, I'm not diverse. It's very colorful. So all kind of stuff. There's people doing, I don't know, just zines about little scribbles. But there's people doing, I don't know, feminist stuff and maybe more society related stuff. But yeah, it's all kinds of stuff are getting out now. So.
Okay, and does your story is like example for young Hungarian artists that you could be, from Budapest and still manage to work with the stars of international comics?
I mean, I hope so. Yeah, I feel like if I can do it, everybody can do it. So, yeah, I think the only thing that I did that really helped me achieve this stuff is that I really love drawing comics, and I always draw. And so, if you do something a lot, you eventually gonna get better and better. And yeah.
Do you have some question for our guests? It's the not maybe last chance to ask him something, but you should grab it. No? Okay. So maybe we will think about some questions more for Mark. I thought that you can feel the Hellboy and Mike Mignola atmosphere in your style in that book. But it's not only Hellboy, it's not simple Hellboy, Márk Mignola inspiration. When you look at the... Oh, this is not the version of... Because this book has two cover versions. One by Phil, the special for Golden Chicken, and one by you. So you can choose which one you want to buy. Because you want to buy that book, or you can buy both of them, so it's up to you. And when you are seeing that your cover, the main character is very big on it, And so for me it looks like the character from Over the Garden Wall animation, one of the best animation that you can see.
Agreed.
HBO Max, I recommend it strongly. It's really good. So what other inspiration for your storytelling, for your style of drawing, besides Hellboy?
Yeah, I think, as I said, EC Comics, the horror anthology field, short stories, really, I think, the best format for me. I mean, that's where I am. But yeah, as you said, Over the Garden Wall is also a huge inspiration. And I think drawing-wise, maybe Robert Crumb. That's why I do all the scribbly lines, lots of little these kind of lines. And yeah, I mean, everything that I read and I like makes a mark on me. So I can't think any more examples right now, but yeah, there's lots of stuff that I put inside my stuff.
Yeah, so you can read it and check it by yourself. Yep. Maybe you will find more inspirations of Mark. You told that you were studying animation. So are you also doing animation beside comic books, or no? It's a closed path in your life.
It's not a closed path, because sometimes there are still jobs where they ask me to do character design and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed animating and coming up with stories. But you know, I always say this example: in animation, for a character to walk inside, walk through a room is like 1,000 drawings, and in comics it's just 2 panels. And I really enjoy that you have to use your mind as a reader. You have to use your imagination for that process. So yeah, I stuck with comics, but there's a vague idea in my head that maybe this comic book would work in a stop-motion animation, you know, like Tim Burton or Leica Studios kind of stuff. So maybe when I'm older, I will hopefully get to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, so it's not a close path for me. I really enjoy it. Animation is just a lot more work, a lot more sitting. I'm sitting enough already. So yeah, I choose comics for my main.
I choose comics. I choose life. Character of Transporting Hood. So that's your comic, this one, The Boy Who Fell in Love with the Ghost of the Clown, was published in Hungary? Was it?
Yeah, this was actually my I don't know the word, my graduation work in animation school, where by the end I already knew that I didn't want to make my diploma with a movie or with an animation. So I told my teachers that I have this story and I would like to do it, and they said, go for it. And yeah, I got my diploma with this in an animation school, so that was like a bit weird, but I was happy for it. And yeah, I don't remember how it got out, but somehow a Hungarian publication company contacted me called Szép Irodalmi Figyelő, which probably doesn't make any sense in Polish, but
you can try to translate it.
Yeah, it's like it was a company that published literature stuff, more like classical literature stuff. But they started to publish comics, and mine was the first, one of the first, I think, comics that they published.
I can add that that same company just bought the Hungarian rights for Osiedle Swoboda by Śledziu. So I hope that it will be published in Hungary in the same publishing house as László books in Hungary soon. We'll see. So how was the reception in Hungary with your book? People like it?
Oh yeah, pretty good, pretty good. I think all of the copies were sold, and it also had a second printing that was also sold.
And what are print runs on Hungary for comic books?
I think 500 was the first run, so it's not that big, not that much, but you know, there's just a few thousand people that are actually interested in buying indie comics. For superhero comics, they're a more bigger base. But yeah, so I think it was the best that it could happen there.
Okay, so you've went to some promoting tour for some comic festivals. Do you have comic festivals in Hungary that you could show up with your book and do some autograph sessions?
Yeah, we have cons like this. And there I did on my table, dedicated just to here. And yeah, for the Hellboy stuff, I was invited to go to the US. There I did a con, which was super great. And I also went to Germany because they published a story there. But for this book, this is yeah, no, actually, DUCH KLAUNA was published in Spanish and French, and a very limited series of English language run by a publication company called Spaceman Project,
okay,
who deals with indie comics.
Yeah, they are doing a lot of Kickstarter projects, Spaceman, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, so they published that in French and Spanish and limited series in English. So yeah.
That's the last chance for a question to Mark. Anyone has anything to ask our guests? Okay, so I will continue. Can you tell me what was during the work on Hellboy? Do you have, like very hard deadlines and you were forced to do something on nights to deliver your work on time, or it was just, very casual and slow process?
Luckily for me, it was a very casual and slow process. I don't know, because if they knew that it was my first American comic job, or they just had a lot more time for publication, because I think they planned on had 4 years with the Hellboy. So I had half a year to do the whole 20 pages, which means it's a really loose deadline. Because I also did a story at the Boom Studios.
For Jim Henson.
Sorry?
For Jim Henson.
Yeah, the Jim Henson storyteller stuff, and for that it was like I had to write and draw the whole thing and also color the whole thing in 60 days, so 2 months, which I failed. So I had to find a colorist, and yeah, it's a lot harder. I had to stay awake and draw all day for a month. For the Hellboy books, it was much more comfortable. Yeah, I had the chance to redraw whatever I don't like and not satisfied with it, so it was super awesome experience. I don't think that is a common thing actually, because most of the companies and like Marvel or bigger stuff, they all work with very tight deadlines.
Okay.
And I couldn't handle those.
So, anything more? Because we have to finish in a few minutes. No. Okay. So you will be working with Boom Studios also. The very nice publishing house from Portland, I think. No, Portland, United States.
I don't
remember. But for me, the new image. They had a good energy right now for good books, and really, you should check them. Boom Studio. So, after Jim Henson, storybook teller, are you working on something with them or other American publishers?
Oh, not right now. Not right now. As I said, I'm working on the
on your book.
Sorry?
On your book.
Yeah. But whenever I get an offer, I can always take it. So I hope I will in the future.
Okay. So, this is a really nice looking book, and you should definitely check that. But as you are here, you have to check the stand of Márk László and see the originals, because they are really mind-blowing and amazing.
Thank you.
So you should check how those pages look in bigger format, and that's the beginning of my question. How do you feel as an artist working on A3 format, big format, and when you are seeing your book, but in smaller issues? How we can compare that? It's I repeat that you can have a book in big size, or it's just something natural for you.
I don't understand the question exactly. Is it about the size? Or
the size and the difference between the original work and working with pencil and see the book ready in smaller format, and when art is maybe not so huge.
Yeah, actually, when I drew the Ghost Town story, I drew it on A4, regular copy paper size, so it's not that much smaller. You can check the pages on my table. It's almost this exact size. But as I said, this is my first story, my first official story that I drew. And ever since that, I do work in A3 size, which is a double of the A4, as you know, and it's much more comfortable to work in that size because I like doing detailful stuff, more work out every corner of the page. So I don't mind. I think this is the best comic size format, the classical size. So whenever I do a big drawing, it gets zoomed down, shrunk down, smaller, which means the images are getting tighter. So it's always nice to have it printed out in this size. And the Hungarian publication was much smaller than this, which I wasn't happy with it, so I'm much more happy.
That one is... So the Polish readers are happy to have that proper edition. On your table, and on the table next to your stand. So I would like to end that meeting with our guest, Márk László, with saying that you have to go there to check all that things that Márk is doing. And I want to thank you for coming here to
Thank you so much for having me.
Golden Chickens, and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.